Good morning and welcome to all in attendance. I declare the Scenic Rim Regional Council Ordinary Meeting for Wednesday the 24th of July 2024 now open. Additionally, I acknowledge the traditional owners of the lands of the Scenic Rim Regional Council area. We pay respect to their elders past, present and future, and extend congratulations to them on their continued nurturing of their culture. I believe we have a full attendance today. There are no apologies. I'd now like to call upon Councillor Moriarty for prayers.
Thank you, Mayor. Let's pray. Lord, we just come before you today and give thanks for the opportunity to meet in the chambers of the Scenic Rim Regional Council in this beautiful region of Australia, the Scenic Rim. We ask that you watch over all in the meeting today and that you fill us with your wisdom and guidance so that we make the decisions that are needed for this region in a way that is needed for those people that we represent. It's a privilege to represent those people, and we just ask for your wisdom and guidance throughout the meeting so we're making the right decisions for all of those people. We ask this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Councillor Moriarty. I now call upon members for declarations of prescribed or declare.
Go back to the question.
I skipped one, my apologies. Public question time. Do we have questions on notice, CEO?
Through Mr Mayor, we have a question from Mr Anton Lagerway from Tambourine Mountain. His question is as follows. As Mayor Christensen entered Scenic Rim Regional Council into the membership of ICLEI in 2019 without seemingly any reference, consultation to with the ratepayers and or their representatives, will, in the spirit of good governance, SRRC now terminate this membership? The response, Mr Mayor. Membership of the International Council for Local Environmental Initiatives, ICLEI, is a legacy from the predecessor Bow Desert Shire Council. Membership was reinstated in 2019 to help Council provide some resources to assist with the development of the Scenic Rim Climate Change Roadmap 2024 to 2034 and the Scenic Rim Climate Change Action Plan 2024 to 2026. The annual membership fee is approximately $1,200. This membership provides Council with access to resources such as case studies and guides, links to projects, connections with councils and governments around the world, and opportunities to participate in workshops and webinars. Internationally, there are over 2,500 cities involved. Australian membership consists of 23 councils, including Brisbane City Council, Cairns Regional Council, and Mackay Regional Council. ICLEI itself is globally committed to sustainable urban development to help promote sustainability policy and drive local action for low emission, nature-based, equitable, resilient and circular development. I want to be very clear that the membership of ICLEI or any such organisation does not bind council policy making process, but is more of an information database and sharing opportunity. Council has also moved to much more localised and regional focus group of the SEQ Climate Resilience Alliance. Council's continued membership of ICLEI will be dependent on the benefits to Council's adopted climate change roadmap and action plan.
Thank you, CEO. I think that clearly spells the position out. Thank you, CEO. I think that clearly spells the position out. I'd now like to move to item 6, declarations of prescribed or declarable conflict of interest by members. I'll call upon members.
Thank you, Chair. I've already advised that I would be seeking to have the unconflicted councillors decide whether I can participate in a particular item and vote on that item. That item being the, which one is it? 11, next page, there we go. 11.7, the adaptive reuse of the Bow Desert Pig and Calf sale yards. I was a considerable time ago a signatory to the petition to save the pig and calf sale yards and have it heritage listed, and that was the extent of my involvement. That was long before I was elected to council. I was not a party to the Planning and Environment Court appeal between the Heritage Department and the council. However, I did attend every day of the hearing as an interested ratepayer. That's the extent of my involvement in this issue, and I ask now or at the appropriate time, when the item's discussed, I'll be asking if I can remain for discussion and vote on that article. Thank you.
Councillor, alternatively, we'll address this at 11.7, but you can alternatively seek advice from the members, or do you want to proceed to a motion?
I think I'll just proceed to a motion.
Okay,
When we get to 11.7.
we'll get to 11.7. Thank you. Are there any further declarations? None. I now move to, there are no announcements today that I'm aware of, members? No. The next item, reception of deputations by appointment, presentations of petitions. I'd just like to make a comment. Council is in receipt of a petition from Sally Undery regarding the reopening of Duck Creek Road in Scenic Rim. The Council's standing orders provide the criteria for a petition to be valid. This particular petition does not meet the technical requirements for a valid petition under Section 6 of Council's standing orders. However, given the importance of this issue within the community and to those who visit this region, I would like to move a procedural motion to suspend the rule regarding petitions. I move that pursuant to Section 21 of the Standing Orders for Council Meetings Policy, Council suspend Section 6, which is the rule on petitions, and allow the petition titled Reopening of Duck Creek Road in Scenic Rim be considered. Could I have a second for that motion?
Can I just have a point of clarification just before we go ahead, for my own mind? Can you just tell me why the petition doesn't meet our requirements, just so we know? Is that okay? Is it just a
before we go,
thing?
we'll have a seconder to the motion, and then we'll put it to the.
Can we have that first, or?
Through you, Mr Mayor, the petition has not been presented in the proper manner in relation to the identification of the first petitioner, the provision of postcodes and other minor administrative details.
Thank you, that's lovely. Thank you for the clarification. I'm happy to so move. Second, beg your pardon, second.
Okay, given that that's pretty straightforward, anyone, I won't talk further to the motion, anyone against the motion? I put it to the floor, those in favour? Carried unanimously. I'll now hand it over to Councillor Moriarty to introduce the petition.
Thank you, Mayor. As I've been presented with the petition titled Reopening of Duck Creek Road in the Scenic Rim, I would like to move the following motion. That motion being that Council receive the petition titled Reopening of Duck Creek Road in the Scenic Rim, and 2, refer the petition to the Chief Executive Officer for consideration, reporting back to Council at an ordinary meeting.
Thank you, Councillor. Can I have a seconder for that motion? Councillor Hay. Do you wish to talk to your motion, Councillor?
No, thank you, Mayor.
Anyone against the motion? I'll put it to the floor, those in favour? Motion carried unanimously. We now move on to the confirmation of the minutes for the ordinary meeting on the 26th of June 2024 and also the special meeting for 28th of June 2024. Firstly, we'll deal with the ordinary meeting minutes for 26th of June. Call upon the floor. Councillor McInnes, move those minutes be received.
Yes, Mayor.
Seconder, Councillor Hay. Anyone against the motion? Anyone talking to further? Councillor McInnes? No. I put the motion to the floor. Those in favour? Carried unanimously. A special meeting for the 28th of June 2024. Could I have a move for that? Councillor Sanders, seconded. Councillor Cryer. Anyone against the motion? I call upon the members. Those in favour? Motion carried unanimously. All right, we now move to item 11.1. Sorry, any business arising from the previous minutes? All right, we'll now move to item 11.1 and call upon Councillor Moriarty.
Thank you, Mayor. Council has recently been in receipt of correspondence from the Minister of Agricultural, Industry Development and Fisheries and the Minister for Rural Communities, inviting us to nominate 2 councillors to be considered for appointment to the Darling Downs Moreton Rabbit Board for a term of up to 4 years commencing in 2024. I would like to present to the meeting the motion that 1, Council note the nomination of Councillor Duncan McInnes, OAM, to be considered for appointment to the Darling Downs Moreton Rabbit Board for a term of up to 4 years, commencing in August 2024, in accordance with the resolution of Council at the ordinary meeting held on the 22nd of May 2024. And 2, Council retrospectively endorse the nomination of Councillor Kerry Cryer to be considered for appointment to the Darling Downs Moreton Rabbit Board for a term of up to 4 years, commencing in August 2024.
Can I call upon Councillors McInnes and Cryer? Do they accept the nominations before we go further?
Yes, Mayor, I accept that nomination.
Yes, Mayor, I also accept the nomination. Thank you.
Thank you. Can I call upon a seconder of the motion? Councillor Chalk. Do you wish to talk to your motion?
Mayor, just to say that there are a number of statutory authorities and councillors are requested to be on those. It's great that we have 2 councillors who are prepared to be on the Rabbit Board, and thank them for their taking on this role and their service in that position. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Any wish to talk against the motion? Then I put it to the floor. Those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Turn to item 11.2 and call upon Councillor Hay.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to introduce item 11.2, the Scenic Rivers Improvement Trust, and I take the report as read, and it's a requirement that Council nominate 2 people for representation on the Scenic Rivers Improvement Trust, and the appointment of those who were appointed previously is about to expire, so it's necessary for us to go ahead and nominate 2 people or 2 councillors, which is the purpose of this agenda item. So if we can scroll down to the recommendation. The recommendation and the motion is that Council appoint 2 councillors to the Scenic Rim Improvement Trust for the term ending 31st of March 2028. The 2 nominees being Councillor Marshall Chalk and Councillor McInnes, I believe. Yes.
Thank you, Councillor. I suppose firstly I just ask Councillors Chalk and McInnes if they accept the nomination.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I accept the nomination. Thank you.
Thank you.
Same here, Mayor, I accept.
Thank you, councillors. I call upon a seconder for the motion. Councillor Moriarty. Do you wish to talk to your motion, Councillor Hay?
No, thank you, Chair. It's self-explanatory.
Thank you. Anyone wish to talk against the motion? Then I put it to the floor. Those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Moving to item 11.3, I call upon Councillor Chalk.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, it's my pleasure today to introduce item 11.3, our Scenic Rim Biosecurity Plan. I'll take the report as being read and I'll move to a motion. The motion reads that 1, Council acknowledge and thank the community for the input and feedback provided during community engagement on the draft Scenic Rim Region Biosecurity Plan. 2, Council adopt the Scenic Rim Region Biosecurity Plan. And 3, Council delegate authority to the Chief Executive Officer to make minor grammatical design and formatting changes to the Scenic Rim Regional Biosecurity Plan if required after its adoption and prior to publishing on Council's website for public access, noting any such changes will be advised to councillors prior to publishing.
Thank you, Councillor. Could I have a seconder for the motion, please? Councillor Cryer, thank you. Councillor Chalk, you wish to talk to your motion?
Oh, yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, I think this is a good plan. It's been worked on over the last few years. It was a priority of the previous council and now this council to once again improve the biosecurity actions in this region. We've added a few extra, brought back in a few extra employees to work in this area to reinvigorate the focus on our biosecurity efforts in this region. So I think having a plan and implementing that plan well into the future will be a good thing for our region. So I certainly endorse the motion.
Thank you, Councillor. Anyone wishing to talk against the motion? Then I put it to the floor. Those in favour? Motion carried unanimously. Thank you. Now move to item 11.4 and call upon Councillor Cryer.
Thank you, Chair. As Councillor for Division 2, I'd like to introduce the report item number 11.4, MCU 24/018, Development Application for Material Change of Use for Nature-Based Tourism, 1 tourist accommodation site located at 74 to 88 Hazel Road, Tamborine, Lot 64 RP 151369. I take the report as read, and I'll now move to the motion and recommend that Council receive and note the report titled MCU 24/018 Development Application for Material Change of Use for Nature-Based Tourism, 1 tourist accommodation site located at 74 to 88 Hazel Road, Tamborine, Lot 64 RP 151369. 2, Council approved development application MCU 24/018 and grant a development permit for material change of use, subject to the conditions contained in Appendix A, Attachment 2. And 3, Council note that any subsequent requests for a negotiated decision notice and or change applications to the approval MCU 24/018 will be processed via delegated authority where the changes will not significantly alter the original decision.
Thank you. Seek a seconder for that motion. Councillor McInnes. Councillor Cryer, do you wish to talk to the motion?
Yes, thank you, Chair. This item is for a proposed material change of use for a nature-based tourism accommodation structure in Tamborine, which has already been constructed. Although there is apparent low or negligible impact to the environment and neighbouring properties with this proposed development, and it does indeed cover less than 1% of the property, going forward, I would like to see more respect for the application and approval process, which has been put in place for the protection and benefit of our community, its aesthetics and our neighbours, and should not initially be ignored with a request for approval sought after this structure has already been built, as in this case. Thank you.
Noted. Thank you, Councillor. Anyone wish to talk against the motion? I'll put the motion to the floor. If you, do you want to raise it? Yeah, please.
Through the chair to the GM and probably the officer. How many other activities currently operate on that property? How many uses are there?
Thank you, Councillor. And through the chair, so there is an existing dual occupancy approval on the site, which also includes a holiday home for one of those dwellings there for short-term accommodation purposes.
So this will be the second short-term accommodation use, but this one's classified as nature-based tourism, is that correct?
Yep, that's correct.
Okay, and the building has already been built without approval,
Correct, yeah.
and the plumbing was not done with an approval, is that correct?
Yep, correct.
Thank you. Are we aware if the dome has actually been used and advertised for temporary accommodation purposes?
So just in terms of the assessment and through this process as a development application, the compliance elements are separate for the consideration, so it would be outside the scope of this recommendation to consider those elements.
Okay.
Yep.
I would like to speak additionally. I'd like to concur with Councillor Cryer's comments. I find it very disappointing that we have a planning scheme and people feel that it's satisfactory to go ahead and build what's basically a commercial operation without any approvals from council. It makes a mockery of our planning scheme. It's very difficult to take compliance action when there's not an approval in place, so there are no conditions set down until we sort this out today. I would like to see people be a little bit more respectful of our planning scheme and their neighbours, given that this particular development is in the rural residential zone, in a rural residential A precinct, and I don't believe that this is what's expected as a use by the residents in that area, given that it's not just one tourism use, it's now a second use plus a dwelling. So at some point we have to say, where does it end? And I'd like to see people submitting applications before they go ahead rather than retrospectively.
No, Councillor, I guess I could pose the question, and I know it's a difficult position, but what is the redress in these instances?
Thank you, Mayor. And through the chair, so we can't compel the community to not do the wrong thing. All we can do is follow the legislative process in terms of trying to remedy the issue. So whether that is taking enforcement action or them having the opportunity to lodge an application, which is through natural justice, procedural fairness, and then it's for us to consider it against our statutory document being the planning scheme, whether it complies. When the application is lodged, the elements in terms of the non-compliances need to be separated. In terms of our consideration, we need to consider the application as made to the officers.
Thank you. It is a difficult position, particularly when there is impact in the community and direct neighbours, and acknowledge both Councillor Cryer and Councillor Hay your comments.
I would like to say that in the application I didn't find any comments of merit that justified why a plastic dome on a property could be constituted to be nature-based tourism.
Do you want to make comment regard to that?
Thank you, and through the chair. So it is the applicant's prerogative what land use they define it as, and it's for us to consider whether it's appropriate or not. There is some case law and a bit of a blurred line in terms of what constitutes nature-based tourism, short-term accommodation, tourist park, and the other types of short-term accommodation tourism uses we have throughout the region. It is still considered against the broader scheme intent and requirements, and whether there is potential for off-site impacts and those other elements which are considered. The same codes and assessment provisions do apply in terms of the assessment considerations, however the land use definition does differ.
Just a comment, if I may. Just, I'm listening to all of the feedback and it's really, really interesting. But one of the things I would like to say is that a planning scheme is all about allowing development. It's about finding appropriate development, and I understand that maybe some of these things were done beforehand, but a planning scheme is definitely about encouraging development, not stopping it.
I'd like to respond to that. I don't believe the planning scheme is in place to encourage people to do their constructions and start operating a business without prior approval. I don't think that's the intent of the planning scheme at all, to be there purely to rubber stamp something that's already been done without approval.
Acknowledged. I don't think we'll let this run away too much further. Acknowledge both points of the view. I will make a point, though, to finalise on this. The planning scheme is not just about development, it is about appropriate development, and it is about impact. And I think we need to be conscious of that within the various zonings of this region. I now put is there anything, anyone wishing to talk further? Councillor Cryer.
No, thank you, Chair.
Anyone wishing to talk against? Then I will now put the motion to the floor. Those in favour? Those against? Call for a division. Those in favour were Division 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and the Mayor. Against, Division 1. Thank you. And now move to item 11.5 and call upon Councillor Cryer to introduce that item. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. As Councillor for Division 2, I'd like to introduce report item number 11.5, MCU 23/191, minor change to approval homestay tourist accommodation 8 units, 13 to 17 Munro Court, Tambury Mountain, Lot 3, RP 206217. I take the report as read. I now move the motion that one, council receive and note the report titled MCU 23/191, minor change to approvals, homestay tourist accommodation 8 units, 13 to 17 Munro Court, Tambury Mountain, Lot 3, RP 206217. Two, council approved change application MCU 23/191 as presented and subject to the conditions contained in Appendix A, Attachment 2, and 3, council note that any subsequent requests for a change application to the approval will be processed by a delegated authority where the changes would not significantly alter the original decision. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Could I have a seconder for the motion? Councillor Sanders. Thank you. Councillor Cryer, would you like to talk to your motion?
Yes, thank you, Chair. At this stage, I am relieved that the MCU is only for minor change and contained mainly within existing structures, given that the surrounding koala habitat is unfortunately not protected under Section 16A of the Planning Regulation 2017, with the original development permit for this site being approved by the Beaudesert Shire Council on the 25th of January 2000, which is before the 7th of February 2020, and so therefore does not apply. But as indicated, everything else within the MCU request fortunately complies and all other conditions to be adhered. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone wish to talk against the motion? Any comments or questions?
Thank you, Chair. I'd just like to comment that from the report, which is publicly available, it can be seen that this property has a long history of applications and minor changes. going back quite some time. This is yet another minor change, and I'm rather hopeful that this might be the last one, but possibly not. At some point, there has to be a decision made, I would imagine, by the developer as to what they actually want to have as the ultimate outcome for the property, rather than these what appear to be ad hoc changes, all of which impact on the neighbours. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
I think you're referring, councillor, to a master plan. Would you like to comment on that, officer?
Thank you. And through the chair, yeah, so in relation to this application, does have quite an extensive history, and it does span over multiple different forms of legislation, so it needs to be considered on that basis as well. Some of those changes were previously what were called permissible changes, and now there's the opportunity for applicants to make a minor change or other change. Officers, in consideration of the original application as lodged, did have concerns with what was being applied for, and it was revised and returned, resubmitted as a minor change, which was accepted as stepped out within the report. However, consideration still needs to be given back to what was originally applied for, in terms of ensuring that it's not incremental increases and it's still reflective of what the original intent was, or it's consistent with the original assessments. In those instances where it's above and beyond, then it starts pushing it into another change, and it needs to be assessed on the relevant provisions at that time. It's important to note this did go through a previous appeal process as well, where there was a court order which effectively legitimised at that point in time what was existing on the land too. So consideration had been given to that as part of the assessment.
Thank you. Councillor Cryer, do you wish to talk to your further to your motion?
No, thank you, Chair.
I put it to the floor. Those in favour? Motion carried unanimously. Thank you. I now turn to item 11.6 and call upon Councillor Hay.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to introduce item 11.6, MCU 23/177, change application other. Material change of use for a tourist facility, glowworm caves and a function room with ancillary butterfly sanctuary at 104 to 144 Hartley Road, Tamborine Mountain, lot 143 on SP 147929. This property had a previous approval for a bird aviary, and the new owners or the applicants for this particular application appear to have given away the idea of a bird facility in favour of an ancillary butterfly sanctuary, which will be an add-on to existing tourism uses on the site. So I must say it's good to see an application for something that hasn't actually been built yet or started to operate, and it's good to see that it's actually co-located with another tourism activity, which is the intent of the planning scheme, is that tourism activities, where possible, are co-located. So for those reasons, I support this application. I do have concerns about the significantly increased number of car parks, but I guess if you're attracting more tourists, you have to accommodate more vehicles. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I would like to move the motion.
Just before you do, Councillor, could you just introduce the item? Is it correct for the record? It's lot 173.
Oh,
not
did
lot
I?
143.
Sorry, okay. Do you want me to go back and do that again, or no?
That's fine.
That's fine? Okay. I'll move the motion in three parts. That Council receive and note the report titled MCU 23/177, change application other, material change of use for a tourist facility, glowworm caves and function room with ancillary butterfly sanctuary at 104-144 Hartley Road, Tamborine Mountain, lot 173 on SP 147929. 2, Council approved change application MCU 23/177 as presented and subject to the conditions contained in Appendix A, Attachment 2. And 3, Council note that any subsequent requests for a change application to the approval will be processed via delegated authority where the changes would not significantly alter the original decision.
Thank you. Could I have a seconder for the motion, please? Councillor Sanders. Councillor Hay, you wish to talk to your motion?
No, I think I've said enough, thank you.
Anyone wishing to talk against the motion? All right, I'll put it to the floor. Those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you. I now move to item 11.7 and call upon Councillor Sanders to introduce this item. Thank you.
Good morning. As Councillor for Division 4, Beaudesert to Coralban, I hereby introduce item 11.7, adaptive reuse of the Beaudesert pig and calf sale yards. I assume that all councillors have read the report, had any questions answered, and understand the history as per this paper. I put the motion, option 1, that council acknowledge that the public consultation has been undertaken for the adaptive reuse of the Beaudesert pig and calf sale yards heritage display and proceed with the delivery of the project within the allocated budget in accordance with the final concept design, which incorporates features requested via community feedback.
Sorry, point of order. I believe we needed to deal with the conflict of interest before we proceed.
Thank you, Councillor.
True.
Sorry, my mistake on that, Mr Mayor.
That's quite all right. So your declaration, Councillor Hay?
My declaration is that I don't believe that I have a declarable conflict of interest in this matter. My only involvement, as stated earlier, was that I was a signatory to the petition to save the pig and calf sale yards and have them heritage listed. I have no further involvement. We've obviously moved on as a result of a court case, and the decisions relating to the heritage list have been resolved in the courts. Where we're up to today is moving on and forward from that point, and I don't believe that a reasonable person could believe that I'm likely to gain any particular benefit regardless of which way I vote on this, and I would like unconflicted councillors to determine whether I can A, stay in the meeting for this item, and B, vote on the motion. Thank you.
Any questions for the councillor? Would someone like to put a motion in relation to Councillor Hay being able to stay in the meeting and vote?
Yeah, I can, Mr Mayor.
Thank you.
I'll move the motion that Councillor Hay does not have a declarable conflict of interest in this matter and that she can stay in the room and vote on the item.
Thank you, Councillor. Seconder. Sorry, Councillor McGuinness.
Before we proceed, if Councillor Hay could, maybe as an explanation, and I take her point, she was a petitioner against wanting to save the sale yards and to have them heritage listed. That was in two parts. One part, as you rightly point out, is not heritage listed, and we move on from that part, but it's what we do on the other part, and I just wonder whether are you clear in your mind that you don't have a conflict in that, the second part, we'll call it?
I'm absolutely clear, thank you.
Anything further, Councillor McGuinness?
No, that's all right.
All right, I'll look for a seconder to the motion. Councillor Moriarty. Anyone wishing to talk? Do you wish to talk to the motion, Councillor Chalk?
No, thank you, Mayor.
Self-explanatory. Anyone wishing to talk against? I put it to the floor. Those in favour of the motion? Carried unanimously.
Can it be noted that I didn't vote, please?
I'm sure it can. I return to Councillor Sanders.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Sorry for the procedural error there, forgot about that one. So what I've done is I've put the motion, which is option 1. I will read that again just in case. The council acknowledged that the public consultation has been undertaken for the adaptive reuse of the Beaudesert Pig and Calf Sale Yard heritage display and proceed with the delivery of the project within the allocated budget in accordance with the final concept design, which incorporates features requested via community feedback.
Thank you. Do we have a seconder for the motion? Councillor Cryer. Councillor Sanders, my apologies. Would you like to talk to your motion?
Yes, please. This has been a very controversial and difficult time for this community. My feeling is that the community has fatigue over the ongoing saga and would like councillors to make a decision and get the work done. It is interesting to note that there were responses from only 4% of the 800 people who reviewed the documentation. Public consultation has been undertaken between 6th of November 2023 and 4th of December 2023. The pig and calf sale yards were an ideal place when they were built. They were close to the rail line and they were close to the town. They are now old, they're outdated, they're no longer fit for purpose. There is no way to dispose of the waste of the many animals. It's difficult to find companies willing to lease the premises, and the yards would need substantial budgets to get them to appropriate standards for building, environment and safety. The yards are now falling into disrepair. The sale yards are now in the wrong place for this rapidly growing town. Council has undertaken further consultation for the adaptive reuse of the sale yards. It is budgeted for $100,000 to undertake a heritage display with reclaimed sale yard timbers. The plan is to include barbecues, seating areas, wheelchair accessibility, rubbish bins, and an interactive storyboard to showcase the sale yards as the meeting place that they once were. While it is true that this is part of our heritage, I've noticed that Council has tried to make sure that we continue to recognise our history. This is for the benefit of our current and our future generations. And by moving this way, we are honouring our heritage and our history.
Thank you, Councillor. Look, I'd just like to flag that I won't be supporting this motion. The reasons being is that, and I know that we'll have to vote on this motion, but I'd like to flag now, there are a number of issues. I do acknowledge it has been quite a saga. It has been a controversial one. And part of that process, it's not about whether or not the sales yards should be reinstated as an operating entity. It is about the consultation process that occurred and the lack thereof. This first reared its head at the end of 2019 when there was a presentation of the town revitalisation project at the golf club, and there were some attendees to that as part of that consultation process. But what was not highlighted in that consultation process was the closure and the removal of the sale yards. Once the community became aware of that, then there was a lot of anxiety that created a number of petitions from over 1,300 people. The original consultation process saw, I believe, what was responses from 90 people within the public. Council at that time should have immediately realised that the consultation process had failed, and there was a great deal of anxiety in this community. There was an impact on this community in terms of social and economic. Council then proceeded to ignore that engagement, led by a group from the Beaudesert Show Society and the Historical Society in Sue Harrison, who tried to put a pitch forward to Council as an alternative and actually enhance the site through a community garden and markets. That proposal was ignored. There was attempts by a councillor at the time to make this aware to Council and for Council to give it consideration. Council continued to fight the issue. As a last-ditch effort, there was a community-led organisation, again by Sue Harrison, to lodge heritage status to save the yards because council continued to ignore these people. They won that heritage status, rightly or wrongly. Council then took upon it themselves to have those dismissed at the cost of ratepayers. Council presented a motion to the people that they were going to appeal, but it was agreed by council that they could lodge the initial appeal, but the council would come back to the people with the total cost. That was motioned in council. That motion was completely ignored and never came back to the people, and went on and spent over $200,000 worth of ratepayers' money in ignoring a motion. How that occurs legally, I do not know. Now, it was overturned. Council made some acknowledgement that it was of importance to this community in terms of its rural heritage. Yet, when they argued in court, they said it wasn't what they argued the opposite. Where is the consistency? And once came back, then railroaded the public in terms of a consultation process that did not broadly ask the community, what do you want to do with the sale yards? It only gave a narrow scope as to this is how we will repurpose the yards, and you can provide feedback thereupon. I think there has been continued mistake after mistake after mistake. And yes, people may be exhausted with this situation, but I don't think it is time to sweep it under the carpet. I think it is time to address and admit fault and relook, because the cost compared to what has been spent of ratepayers' money, as opposed to going back and probably consulting to the people, is of very little and may be of far greater value to the people to be properly consulted. Thank you. Does anyone wish to talk to the motion? For the motion, I should say.
Just point of clarification, you signalled an alternate motion, but you haven't put, have you put a motion? Sorry,
No,
can you
because
clarify?
we will need to vote on your motion first, Councillor.
Okay, so, okay, all right, just clarifying. Okay, I think just for clarity, mistakes have been made. I believe so. I think this is a new focus for our community. I believe we've also been approached by a few people who would like to remove the timbers, the tin, etc. Maybe they're going to reuse it. Maybe they're going to set up their own yards. I'm unsure. However, I believe that council has undertaken consultation for the adaptive reuse of the sale yards. We've put a budget in place. I think that including the barbecue seating area and wheelchair accessibility, rubbish bins and interactive storyboard will showcase the sale yards as a place that that we used previously, and that was a meeting area. And I think that by moving this way, we're honouring our heritage and our history. I think council has been through a very difficult process, and I think by doing it this way, we're recognising the benefit for our current and future generations, and we honour our heritage.
Anyone wish to talk against the motion? Councillor Moriarty.
Thank you, Mayor. Interestingly, paradoxically, probably concur with both of the speakers so far, and I think Councillor Sanders raises some good arguments about it's time to move forward, and there's no doubt that, or there may be some doubt, but in my opinion that the pig and calf sale yards where they are currently located are not really fit for purpose for a livestock auction, small livestock auction functionality. However, the Mayor makes a very compelling argument and raises some very strong points with regard to the process and the way it was carried out and the way it was conducted. And, you know, we're all aware, I'm sure everyone is aware, that it's been a long and arduous journey to get to this point. I do, however, think there may be some other uses for that site. I've given this some consideration since we have been briefed, and I won't be supporting the motion as it stands at this time. And yeah, just pointing that out in the public domain.
Thank you, councillor. Anyone wish to talk for the motion? Councillor McInnes.
Yes, thanks, Mayor. It has been a very divisive issue, this, for a number of years, and were the mistakes made? Yes, there were. We can't undo the past, and I think we have to move on. It's, in my opinion, that having it is a tourist attraction. I just wonder how much it will actually attract tourists and people will be interested in it. There was, but time will tell, and see, yeah, it is of historical significance there, and it's, I think people would be interested in looking at them. It's not my preferred option, but it'll be interesting to see how many people actually do go and look at them and so on. But I think we have to move on, and we it's become sort of quite a stagnant issue, and we just have to look to tomorrow for it. So I'll be supporting the motion that we carry on in the direction we have been.
Anyone wish to talk against?
Thank you,
Councillor
Chair. I'd like to speak against the motion. Having listened to yourself and the last two speakers, I concur with Councillor Moriarty. I believe that we haven't adequately addressed alternate uses for the site. I note that at the height of the controversy, the Queensland Opera filmed a particularly good segment at the Pig and Calf Sale Yards. The timing was immaculate, I must say. So there are alternate possible uses for the site. I don't think we've adequately assessed those, or if we have, we certainly didn't provide sufficient choices to the public during the consultancy phase. I also recall that when we last went out for public comment, I think we failed to include the fact that it was likely to cost a further $100,000 to achieve what council was proposing. So added to the legal costs, we're now looking at something like $300,000 for a picnic table, basically.
Anyone wanting to talk for? You summed up before, councillor. All right, I'll put the motion to the floor. Those in favour? Those against? Motion defeated. Can I call for a division, please? Those in favour of Division 2, Division 4 and Division 6. Those against were Division 1, Division 3, Division 5 and the Mayor. On that basis, I'd now like to propose an alternative motion before the council. The council, 1, require the Chief Executive Officer to undertake further community consultation of the Bedesert Pig and Calf Sale Yards. That includes the sale yards being reinstated as an ongoing concern for livestock sales and other rural produce. And 2, suspend any further work on the Bedesert Pig and Calf Sale Yards heritage display until further community consultation is undertaken and reported back to council. And 3, that the CEO report to council why the motion of the 23rd of February 2021, Part 2, When further information regarding the impact and implication of the Heritage Council listing is available, the matter be brought back to Council for consideration of further legal action. Why this motion was not carried out. You can have that. I seek a seconder to the motion. Councillor Hay, do you need more time?
I might need a couple of minutes. I didn't get that wording at all.
Which part?
Have you got that? Yeah, that'd be great, thanks.
Mayor, could we get a copy of that, please, and maybe have a 5-minute break to see if we, we'll be up there, but just if it's possible to have just a 5-minute break to digest the ramifications of this.
Certainly. So I'll now call a recess to the meeting and we'll return as soon as
Aim for 1:15.
noting the time, we'll seek an adjournment and return at 10:15. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, and welcome back. We're now at item 11.7, where the previous motion was defeated, and now introducing an alternate motion by myself, and I will read that 1. Council require the Chief Executive Officer to undertake further community consultation regarding the future uses of the Bethesda Pig and Calf Sale Yards. 2. Council suspend any further work on the Bethesda Pig and Calf Sale Yards heritage display until further community consultation is undertaken and reported back to Council. And 3. The Chief Executive Officer report to Council why the resolution of Council made on the 23rd of February 2021, paragraph 2, was not carried out. 2. When further information regarding the impact and implication of the Heritage Council listing is available, the matter be brought back to Council for consideration of further legal action. Thank you. Could I have a seconder to the motion? Councillor Moriarty. Everyone, I will quickly speak to the motion if I may. I did speak earlier in terms of the consultation process, and that this matter has now been before Council for a number of years and has been a divisive issue within the community, and there has been questions raised consistently down through the years over the consultation process. I think, while I acknowledge for some they are exhausted over the matter, I think this is an opportunity for Council to redress those wrongs and put them right, and to actually go back and engage with the community in a broader, much broader setting and a much more open setting regarding all the options that may avail to the Helen Street Bethesda Pig and Calf Sale Yards. I additionally believe that the cost associated with this can be at a minimum compared to ratepayers' money that was that has previously been expended. Is there anyone that wishes to talk against the motion? All right, on that basis, and I've probably said enough on the matter, I'll put it to the floor. Those in favour? Voted upon unanimously. Thank you. Motion carried. We'll now move to item 11.8, and I call upon Councillor Moriarty. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to introduce item 11.8, Regional Precincts and Partnership Program, and take the report as read. I move that 1, Council nominate the following projects to the Australian Government Department of Industry, Science and Resources and the Australian Government Department of Infrastructure, Transport, Regional Development, Communications and the Arts for funding under Regional Precincts and Partnership Program, Stream 1, Precinct Development and Planning. A, the Tamborine Mountain Community and Recreation Precinct, and B, Canungra Town Centre Transport Infrastructure. 2, pardon me, Council nominate the Long Road Sports Complex Construction Project to the Australian Government Department of Industry, Science and Resources and the Australian Government Department of Infrastructure, Transport, Regional Development, Communications and the Arts for funding under the Regional Precincts and Partnerships Program, Stream 2, Precinct Delivery. And 3, Council acknowledge the requirement to allocate funds within future operational and capital budgets, if successful, for delivery of the nominated Australian Government Regional Precincts and Partnership projects.
Thank you. Seek a seconder. Councillor Sanders. Councillor Moriarty, would you like to talk to your motion?
Thank you, Mayor. Just to say that the projects that have been identified by the Council are all very worthy projects. We appreciate the opportunity to apply for grants using federal funding, and hopefully we're successful with these to get these projects up and running. Thank you.
Indeed. Anyone wishing to talk against the motion? Then I put it to the floor. Those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you. I now move to motion 11, to item 11.9, and again call upon Councillor Moriarty. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to introduce item 11.9, 2024 to 28 Local Government Grants and Subsidies Program. I take the report as read, and I'll do my best to read off that far distant screen. Oh, thank you. So I move that one, Council nominate the Coralban Urban Design Framework Planning Project for funding under the Queensland Government Local Government Grants and Subsidies Program. 2, that Council nominate the Long Road Sports Complex Playing Field Construction Infrastructure Project for funding under Queensland Government Local Government Grants and Subsidies Programs. And 3, Council acknowledge the requirement to allocate funds within future operational and capital budgets, if successful, for delivery of the nominated local government grants and subsidies program projects.
Thank you. A seconder for the motion? Councillor McInnes, thank you. Councillor Moriarty, would you like to talk to your motion?
Thank you, Mayor. Similar to the last item, I'd just like to acknowledge the opportunity for Council to apply for grants under state funding for these projects. And again, hopefully we are successful so we can progress them as soon as possible. Thank you.
Councillor Sanders?
Can I just make a comment if that's okay?
Please.
Thank you so much for identifying Coralban for this project. I'm sure the community will be overjoyed if we do manage to get some funding for that area. They've been calling for some sort of planning project for that area for a long, long time. I do also note the Long Road Sports Complex playing field, and I'm sure the people are again overjoyed to see themselves in the recommendation. Thank you so much to council and council officers and all the help we've had.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Hay.
Thank you, Chair. Could I ask Councillor Moriarty if he would consider just adding Tambourine Mountain into item 2 after the wording of Long Road Sports Complex playing field construction, just for clarity, so that we know where it is?
Certainly. Happy with that, Councillor?
Thank you, Councillor Hay, for that point of clarification. More than happy to add Tambourine Mountain to item 2 for clarification. Thank you.
Is that where we want it, or is it after
Long Road Sporting Complex, Tambourine Mountain. Oh, yeah. Playing field construction, I think that's probably best.
Where?
Yeah. We get the idea.
Just after sports complex. And then comma, Tambourine. I know where it is. That's fine. Sorry. Right.
Excellent.
Anyone wishing to talk against the motion? I put it to the floor. Those in favour? Voted unanimously. Motion carried. Move to item 11.10 and call upon Councillor Sanders.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I hope this one goes a little bit better than my previous one, so we'll have a go. Okay, item is 11.10. It is Thriving Suburbs Program. I'm looking at page 256 of the agenda. I'd like to introduce item 11.10 and believe all councillors have read and understood the report. the options are, the recommendation is that 1, the council nominate the Boona Industrial Land Development, including Boona Depot relocation, design and construction project to the Australian Government for funding under the Thriving Suburbs program. 2, that council nominate the Beaudesert Police Citizens Youth Centre design and construction project to the Australian Government for funding under the Thriving Suburbs program. And 3, council acknowledge the requirement to allocate funds within future operational and capital budgets, if successful, for delivery of the nominated Thriving Suburbs project.
Thank you, councillor. Seconded to the motion, councillor Chalk. Councillor Sanders, would you like to talk to your motion, please?
I'd love to do that. That would be great. The Australian Government Department of Infrastructure, Transport, Regional Development, Communications and the Arts has a grant called the Thriving Suburbs Program, which is a $200 million commitment over 2 years, 24 to 25. The minimum grant amount is $500,000 with a maximum grant of $15 million. Now, the grant helps to support delivery of community infrastructure that contributes to local and state place-based priorities and provision of infrastructure that benefits the community by improving equity and supports diverse social inclusion to grow our local economies and enhance amenity and livability. It'd be really nice if we did attract some of this money, so I believe that this would be absolutely a wonderful thing to apply for, and hopefully we are successful.
Thank you. Anyone wishing to talk against the motion? Further comment? Councillor Chalk.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, my pleasure to have further comment on this one. The Boona Industrial Land Development and Boona Depot relocation has been a big priority of mine over the last term and in this term to get moving forward, and I thank the council for putting this project forward, and I'm really looking forward to the outcome of the Thriving Suburbs program, and hopefully we can get some money to deliver this. It would have great benefits for the west of the region and the Boona Township itself. So I'm really looking forward to hopefully getting it across the line and progressing this forward. So thank you.
Excellent. Anything further, councillor Sanders?
Of course, I have to mention the Beaudesert Police Citizens Youth Centre. There'll be a lot of people watching and waiting to see what happens here. Thank you so much for recognising how important this could be to our region. I do hope that we are successful, crossing fingers and toes, and I bet you there's a lot of people out in the community that are waiting to see how we go. Thank you.
Councillor Moriarty.
Oh, thank you, Mayor. I just want to endorse the comments made by Councillor Sanders as the councillor responsible for sport and recreation portfolio. There's been significant funds directed or committed to the PCYC, and this is the next step in getting that project up and running and seeing it to fruition. So I'm particularly pleased to see that being supported in this way as well. Thank you.
Thank you, councillors. Right, I put the motion to the floor. Those in favour? Motion carried. Vote unanimous. Thank you. I move to item 11.11 and call upon Councillor McInnes. Thank you.
Pleasant surprise, Mayor. Yes, I'd like to introduce item 11.11 on, and that's to do with the Local Government Association Queensland Annual Conference 2024 motion. The recommendation, just a bit of background first, the motion is in October 16th to 18th of October this year, and we have to have these motions in beforehand. The recommendation regarding this is that Council submit the following motions to the 2024 Local Government Association Queensland Annual Conference. 1, the Local Government Association of Queensland calls on the Queensland Government to provide $250,000 annually to each council to support the shift of red imported fire ant suppression management and treatment costs under the Queensland Government's Fire Ant Suppression Task Force Plan 2022 23 to 2025-26. Number 2, the Local Government Association Queensland calls on the Queensland Government to reduce the pre-polling period for local government quadrennial elections from 2 weeks to 1 week. Number 3, the Local Government Association of Queensland undertake a further review of its constitutional provisions regarding policy executive districts to ensure equitable representation, particularly for smaller councils. And 4, that the Local Government Association of Queensland calls on the Queensland Government to undertake a comprehensive review to establish a fair and transparent formula for the fixed allocation of grants, taking into account factors such as population size, geographical area and specific needs of each local government, and that long-term funding stability be prioritised to enable local governments to plan for and undertake long-term projects and services. Thank you, Mayor. I so move.
Thank you, Councillor. Could I have a seconder to the motion, please? Councillor Cryer, thank you very much. Councillor McInnes, would you like to talk further to your motion?
I will touch on a couple of those items, Mayor. One, I'm working from number 1, I'm sure the public out there and council and councillors are well aware of the impact of red imported fire ants, and the state government have moved that responsibility on council land back to councils to look after that, and there's quite a big cost involved in that, and it's just another one of those things that have cost push gone from state back to council. So, and given there's an election coming up, I'm interested in what both sides of politics might say to that in this coming year, moving forward. The pre-polling, it did drag out a bit, and I did hear this morning actually that the Electoral Commission has admitted that it wasn't done very well at the local government elections, and they had some big lineups, but it'll be interesting to see if this does get a majority of people agree to that. There's so many councils, especially more in the country, that have just postal voting, but it'll be interesting to see if they can do it better at the coming state election rather than the effort that was put in at the council elections. The others are for us, numbers 3 and 4 are looking for us to get a fair size of the cake compared to what we might have been getting in past, and hopefully that everyone is treated a bit more equitable than what it has been. So I think that covers both 3 and 4 there, Mayor, but any other questions, happy to add to them.
Thank you, Councillor. Well stated, and just like to thank all the councillors for their contributions in terms of these submissions, and also the officers that supported the council in terms of those contributions, and also previously noting the past submissions from 2023, Flying Fox Management and Homelessness, still relevant, both of those points to this very day, but the submissions, you only make them once, so you don't repeat them, but they're brought up here in front of everyone's mind, that the work and the advocacy that this council does and these councillors around this table continues. So thank you to all those involved. Anyone wishing to talk against the motion? Further to, Councillor? I think you have.
No, I think you've heard enough from me, Mayor.
I put it to the floor. Those in favour? Carried unanimously. Unanimously, thank you. Turn to item 11.12, 11.12, and call upon again, and we will hear from you at least one more time, Councillor McInnes.
Thanks, Mayor. Yes, 11.12 amendment to council policy and the councillor portfolios. This did come before council 4 months ago, maybe 3 months ago, and we've just added just a slight tweak there. And the recommendation that council adopt the amended council policy, councillor portfolios identified in attachment 3 to this report. And there are 3 different, for those who haven't got it in front of them, just saying it's for Councillor Cryer, Councillor Moriarty and Councillor Sanders, there is no change. But in mine, which was known as transport infrastructure, it's changed to transport and infrastructure. Councillor Chalk's biodiversity and agribusiness is now economic development, and Councillor Hay was parks, gardens and open space, and now is parks and biodiversity, which I think is a far better fit, especially for those two there, the changes that we've made. So I'll so move that the motion that I read out a moment ago, Mayor.
Thank you, councillor. Seconded to the motion. Councillor Hay, do you wish to talk to your motion, councillor?
No, I think it's by setting out there, I've explained what the changes are, and unless there's questions.
Councillor Sanders?
Mr. Mayor, through to the CEO, I think, just questioning some of the portfolios. I just did a bit of a search on some of the other councils, and they have portfolios such as governance, administration and finance committee, or planning and development, and things that seem to be more along the lines of, or even governance, more along the lines of the functions of council. And I just sometimes question whether we, or how we manage to get our portfolios. I'm happy with transport and infrastructure, and parks and biodiversity sounds great. Yeah, if we could talk about that, that would be wonderful.
So through Mr. Mayor, I'm not quite sure. I've sent out, for example, the portfolios from Western Downs and a couple of other councils as well. You made reference to a planning committee. We don't have a planning committee as a standing committee. These are really just the portfolios that go through.
I'm okay and happy with them. I just think some of them might not be as focused on areas of council. I'm happy to keep on going, happy to support the motion. I just had a couple of questions because our portfolio seemed a little, I was going to say wishy-washy, but of course they're not quite, but they're a little different to some of the other councillors.
Noted, councillor. Any other comment? Councillor Chalk?
Yeah, I'll just make a quick comment about the name change in my portfolio to economic development. It's more of a catch-all rather than a departure away from the agriculture, because agriculture is economic development. So I'm certainly still involved with the agribusiness side of council, but I've probably added to my responsibilities in the economic development, and it broadens it slightly. So I'm certainly in favour of that, and it aligns good with briefings from the GMs and managers, because the people that briefed me on agribusiness before are involved with all economic development in council, so they can just add to what they briefed to me. So it's a lot more streamlined now, and the loss of biodiversity, which was a different manager, across to Councillor Hay, better aligns with her parks and gardens. So I think it's streamlining what we're doing here at council, and it's a process that we can continually go through as priorities change in council, which is a good thing.
Thank you. Councillor Hay?
Yes, I concur with Councillor Chalk's comments. I think the new names of the portfolios better aligns with what the councillors representing those portfolios actually do, and bearing in mind that councillors are expected to provide leadership and direction to the community, and with the assistance of adequate support from council, the portfolio system does assist councillors in the performance of their duties. So it's better to have the portfolios aligned as they are now, given that they're only fairly minor tweaks, than the wording that was evident previously.
Additionally, councillor, and I understand your question. I think councillor Chalk said it's a streamlining process is ongoing, not fixed in cement. But additionally to that, issues, and we've seen highlighted today, there have been questions around the planning scheme, for example. Now, these are major considerations: planning, finance, IT system, procurement, fleet management, just to name a few that don't necessarily fit into this. These portfolios are a little bit more almost consumer or ratepayer facing, and quite possibly as this new council comes together over the next 4 years, and I think it is important in terms of what you say or recognise the way you say it, that we look at things, particularly regards to the planning scheme, how that is how that governance works, whether it be through the introduction of a dedicated committee or other measures, particularly around addressing compliance, we can walk towards over the next 4 years. But thank you for your question.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Yep, again, happy to support this. Just noting that tourism and regional events is very much tied up with economic development. We're attracting people to the area, and of course, I understand. So I'm again just saying that in the future we may just massage these and change these slightly as we go forward. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, CEO, for answering my queries.
Thank you. Any wishing to talk against the motion? Then I put it to the floor. Those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you. I think we have a number of late items.
11.3.
finance.
Finance report.
Most importantly. So we move to item 11.13, and I call on Councillor Hay.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to introduce item 11.13. Sorry, a bit quick, Sharon. Council's monthly financial report for June 2024. I also thank the General Manager for providing some advice on a couple of typos in the report, which I'll address in a moment. And I take the report as read. The motion is that Council note the interim unaudited financial statements for the period ended 30 June 2024 for the financial year 2023 to 2024. I'd just like to speak further on that. The June monthly financial report is somewhat very interim in that the end of year processing continues to be reviewed and processed. This is to ensure that any transactions incurred in 2023 to 2024 and recognised in the 2024 to 2025 financial year are accrued back to the correct financial year. As part of the external audit on council accounts, once the financial statements for 2023-2024 have been finalised, these will be presented to council and allow for a final commentary on the reconciliation of the 2023-2024 financial year. Additionally, there is a typo error in the report on page 318 of the agenda, where the reference to lower should actually read higher. Also, this is better explained as provided for on page 321 of the agenda, where the interim operating result for 2023 to 2024 is a deficit of 4.94 million, as opposed to what the budgeted forecast deficit of 1.385 million is. This makes it $3.555 million higher, not lower. A key factor in the noted increase of the deficit can largely be attributed to the timing of the forward payment of the 2024 to 2025 financial assistance grants. This timing of the payment from the federal government to the state government didn't allow for the on-forwarding of the payments to local government entities in time prior to the end of the financial year on the 30th of June 2024, which I believe is a regular occurrence.
Thank you.
And I move the motion that council note the interim unaudited financial statements for the period ended 30 June 2024 for the financial year 2023 to 2024.
Do I have a seconder to that motion? Councillor Sanders, thank you. Councillor Hay, would you like to talk to the motion?
No, thank you, Chair. I think it's self-explanatory.
Anyone wishing to talk against the motion, Councillor? No?
Not against.
You wish to make a comment, Councillor Sanders?
Yeah, my only comment was received the rates notice. Thank you. Lots of documentation with the rates notice as usual. I've tipped my couple of grand in to assist with this budgeting position, so I hope they notice that. Sorry, I didn't mean to be flippant. It's just I'm always interested in our budgets and having a look at our budgets, and we're trying to keep our rates low all the time. And it's great that we spend some time going through the unaudited accounts every time. And I'm hoping for a very, very successful term.
Thank you, Councillor. Any further comment? Anyone wishing to talk against the motion? I put it to the floor. Those in favour? Carried unanimously. Move to item 11.14. Call upon Councillor Sanders.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Item 11.14, it's a late item. The item is 2024 Australian Local Government Women's Association Queensland Estate Conference. I'm pleased to introduce this item. As I've assumed all councillors have read and understood the paper, the 2024 Australian Local Government Women's Association, which is ALGWA, Queensland State Conference will be held in Brisbane 26th to 27th of April 2024. The recommendation on motion is that 1. Council note that the 2024 Australian Local Government Women's Association Queensland State Conference will be held in Brisbane on the 26th and 27th of August 2024. And 2, Council endorse attendance by Councillor Amanda Hay and Councillor Kerry Cryer. And 3, Council authorise payment of all reasonable costs incurred by the attendees in relation to attendance at this event, including travel, accommodation and incidentals, noting the estimated cost of attendance per person is around $989, which is GST inclusive.
Thank you, Councillor. Could I have a seconder for that?
Could I raise a point of order first? I did foreshadow a question relating to whether Councillor Cryer and myself should vote on this, given that we are the two beneficiaries.
Through Mr. Mayor, as part of the budget process, you already have money in that budget for training. So one way or the other, it will be used. And I don't believe there is a conflict of interest.
Thank you, CEO.
Seconded to the motion. Councillor Hay. Do you wish to talk to your motion, Councillor Sanders?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I'd love to. I believe it's imperative and essential that councillors take advantage of training sessions and networking events in order to gain an understanding of the issues affecting local government and to discuss options and methods for dealing with these issues in local government. The sharing of experiences, gaining of information and ideas via networking helps to develop the councillors to gain knowledge and gain possible solutions to help in their councillor roles. I endorse this motion and believe it's an important event on the calendar, and I do believe that councillors should be encouraged to take advantage of these events.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Cryer?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I'll be very honoured to attend the Women's Conference, and I note there's 3 female keynote speakers and 1 male. Collectively, almost 100 years' experience between them, and so I expect it to be an informative and valuable experience for my role supporting as and improving as a councillor due to this conference. Thank you.
I'd just like to add that Councillor Cryer and myself have decided to individually and personally pay the $85 individual membership of the association, and that has a flow-on benefit to council in that the total cost per attendee is reduced by $100.
Noted, and thank you, Councillor. Councillor Moriarty?
Thank you, Mayor. Just wanted to add to that. I've had the privilege last Saturday of attending the Wongalpong QCWA AGM, and we'll be attending the Beachmont QCWA AGM this coming Saturday. I note that the QCWA has over 3,000 members throughout the state and 225 branches. It's still a thriving organisation in our community with a focus on helping families and children, and also providing funds to things like our emergency services and so on and so forth. So I think it's wonderful that we have 2 of our councillors attending the state conference.
Sorry,
This is a local government.
sorry, 3.
Sorry, I'm looking at the wrong thing. I do apologise. I got carried away there. Please delete all those prior comments. Sorry.
Councillor Moriarty, I think what you were saying is you're supportive of women in local government and having such wonderful speakers, if I can speak for you, wonderful speakers at this event, and that it is really, really useful and helpful for people. I must say I have been privileged to listen to Mr. Ian Wright, and he's talking about making decisions for right and good reasons, and it's about planning schemes and working with local government. And if you go for one reason and one reason only, I would suggest that is an absolute fantastic discussion. And there's also AI and cybersecurity and strategic innovation and empowerment. So really great stuff to listen to.
Thank you, Councillor.
I do stand by all those comments I made about the QCWA though. Outstanding organisation, but I do apologise for that error.
Councillor Moriarty, we welcome your enthusiasm. Thank you. Thank you all councillors for contributions, and note as well that the impact to the ratepayer has been kept to an absolute minimum, given that near 80% of the budgeted funds allocated is for the registration fee and participation in the conference. So thank you. If there's no one opposing the motion, then I'll put the motion to the floor. Those in favour? Motion carried unanimously. Thank you. Now turn to item 11.15 and call upon Councillor McInnes. For the last time today, Councillor.
Thanks, Mayor. We'll introducing. Sorry, I've flicked ahead of myself. 11.15, and that's to do. Yeah, bear with me. Thank you. 11.15, Local Government Association of Queensland 128th Annual Conference 2024. I take it it's been read. The recommendation here, councillors, is that one, council note that the Local Government Association of Queensland's 128th Annual Conference 2024 will be held in Brisbane from the 21st to the 23rd of October 2024. 2, that the Mayor and Deputy Mayor be nominated as council's delegates at the conference and councillors be endorsed as observers. And 3, council authorise payments of all reasonable costs incurred by attendees in relation to the attendance at this event, including travel, accommodation and incidentals, noting the estimated cost of attendance per person is $2,295 GST inclusive. I so move, Mayor.
Thank you. Can I have a seconder for the motion? Councillor Sanders, thank you. Councillor McInnes, would you like to talk to your motion?
Yes, it's good that it moves around the state, this conference, and it being in Brisbane, it's easy for each of us to attend. It is a great opportunity to people to mix with other councillors, and especially I would urge new councillors to actually the opportunity there to meet with different councillors from a wide range of areas and challenges that they have, and it's I find it a great opportunity to talk and understand why different councils do different things. So it's I endorse the motion, Mayor.
Thank you, councillor. Anyone wishing to talk against the motion? Any comments, further questions? Look, I put the motion to the floor. Those in favour? Again, carried unanimously. Thank you. I now turn to item 11.16 and call upon Councillor Chalk.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, as Council for Division 5, this relates to subdivision in Burner, 11.16, RAL 23-040, development application for the reconfiguring a lot subdivision, 2 lots into 171 residential lots at Hoya Road, Burner, Lot 5 on RP 140139 and Lot 1001 on SP 334754. Look, I'll take the report as being read by councillors. I haven't started motion yet. And I'll move the following motion. That 1, council receive and note the report titled RAL 23-040, development application for the reconfiguring a lot subdivisions, 2 lots into 171 residential lots at Hoya Road, Burner, Lot 5 on RP 140139 and Lot 1001 on SP 334754. 2, council approved development application RAL 23-040 and grant a development permit for the reconfiguring a lot subject to reasonable and relevant conditions contained in Appendix A, Attachment 2. And 3, council note that any subsequent request for a negotiated decision notice and or change application to the approval RAL 23-040 will be processed by delegated authority where the changes would not significantly alter the original decision. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, councillor. Could I seek a seconder for the motion? Councillor Moriarty. Thank you. Councillor, would you like to talk to your motion, please?
I'd like first just to ask the officers whether they would give some background and some details around this application. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor, and through the chair. So the application is a follow-on from an earlier application which was made to council and resolved, I believe it was at the 18th of July 2023 meeting. So that was initial stages of the development, which also included some structure plan and master planning for the balanced lots. This application's been made in accordance with what was there, or generally in accordance with some variations. The overall design is proposing a low-density residential outcome, varying sizes of lots, but around the 1,200 metre squares and above, with some variations between those lot sizes. In the assessment of the application, we've considered, it was code assessment, so we've considered it against the relevant assessment benchmarks, as well as the Schedule 12A of the regulation, which talks in relation to walkable neighbourhoods and the provision of park and footpaths. In terms of the assessment, it is considered that the application is consistent with the intent of the zone and the planning scheme requirements. However, it is noted that the development is located outside what is the priority infrastructure area for Burner, which may be considered out of sequence development. The councillors will see that there is a number of conditions in relation to what's considered necessary trunk infrastructure, being a mapped LGIP footpath along Hoyer Road, as well as the requirement for a contribution towards the upgrade of Hoyer Road, given that it's an outer sequence development. In addition to that, there's been some considerations with TMR around the intersection for Coronation Drive and Hoyer Road in terms of the capacity and the ability to service this development. And in those conversations with TMR, who was not a concurrence referral on the application but a third-party advice, they indicated that that intersection would require signalisation as a result of this development, which would be bringing forward effectively traffic lights at that intersection. There's merit in signalisation in that location from a pedestrian movement perspective, but obviously it's consideration of council in relation to that condition as well, being that it's a third-party condition and would be seeing what would be the first signalised intersection for Boonah.
Thank you, Joseph. Councillor Chalk, do you now wish to address your motion?
I'll probably just ask a follow-up question to
Please.
that last point. Will all available options be investigated in this process for that intersection, upgrade of the intersection?
Thank you, Councillor, and through the chair. There has been some consideration in terms of whether there's other opportunities there, one being for a roundabout, and I believe if Chris, General Manager of Assets and Environmental Services may be able to speak to a bit further. However, being that it's effectively a state road corridor as well, they've got a final say of what's the most appropriate traffic treatments for that intersection. However, those other opportunities had been considered, and what the advice is from them is that a signalisation was the preferred option.
Yeah, thank you.
I do have a question.
Councillor Sanders?
With an understanding of the amount of work that they'll have to do on the road, have we had discussions with the applicant about that, or is this going to be a bit of a surprise?
Thank you, Councillor. And through the chair, so prior to the report being tabled to council, there was a further advice provided to the applicant in relation to what council was considering cost appropriate in terms of conditioning for the infrastructure, given that it was out of sequence development outside the priority infrastructure area. Given that the application is code assessment, so it is at risk of deemed approval, we can't compel an applicant to extend the decision-making period. However, in reviewing the application and what is council's ability to impose a condition, we've taken guidance from the legislation. Section 130 through to 136 of the Planning Act does provide for council to provide extra payment conditions in relation to infrastructure for developments outside the priority infrastructure area, which we've imposed in terms of the recommendation for council's consideration. That's not to say that there's opportunity for the applicant to come back and make representations for a negotiated decision process for further consideration, or explore other opportunities such as infrastructure agreements and the like. In terms of other conversations in that regard, the calculation of that figure is based on what council understands would be the upgrade requirements to the appropriate standard for Hoyer Road to service that development. So that figure, which you will see, which is in the vicinity of the $4 million for the extra payment condition, is based on internal consultation with our engineering assets department to determine what's an appropriate figure.
Thank you. Councillor Cryer?
Through the chair. Drainage and just appears to be such a huge and complex problem in Scenic Rim as a whole. And on page 38 of the report, it says there is likely to be a need to increase stormwater drainage to accommodate the discharge to the west. However, council lacks a lawful point of discharge downstream of the existing roads drainage. And it says this will further exacerbate the above mentioned conflicts with the footpath and lead the works to potentially forego the table drains in lieu of pipe drainage. Will pipe drainage be sufficient, and will that solve this problem, or will that create more problems? As I'm finding pipe drainage is a big issue everywhere.
Thank you, Councillor, and through the chair. So, planning is a performance outcome assessment process, so there's an intention that it doesn't pose additional worsening. In the instance of this, it's effectively going from swale drain type design along Hoy Road to the potential of pipe drainage. There's some existing legacy circumstances around that area as well in terms of drainage lines through easement properties, and then for continuation, or I guess the conveyance of flows through other privately owned properties external to this development. However, there's opportunity through the subsequent application processes to find alternative and better options for improvement to the current situation, or at least not a non-worsening outcome. So we don't have the final in-depth details because they are subject to further application process.
Oh, thank you.
Councillor Hay.
Following on from Councillor Crier's comments and question, I see conditions 9 and 10 relate to adverse drainage impacts and inter-allotment drainage. We do see across the Scenic Rim that we have legacy issues resulting from poor planning in the past, going back several decades, where there was not terribly much consideration given to inter-allotment drainage. So it's good to see that we're addressing that in a condition. Are there any detention basins involved in this development?
Thank you, Councillor, and through the chair. I'll just bring up probably the most appropriate page to refer to, page 47. There's a few indicative lighter green blocks as part of the overall development. In initial stage 3, there's what would be below, or just the lighter green section. If we can just scroll down slightly to the west, there's an initial basin there in that location, and then there's a further basin to the north in stage 7. If we scroll up, at the head of what you will see as number 7 on the screen at the moment. So those two lots would act as detention drainage basins for the estate.
And one further question, is the one local park indicated in green in the middle of that diagram considered sufficient to service the planned number of lots, given the proximity to public parks?
Thank you, Councillor. And through the chair, so the scheme doesn't prescribe an exact metric in terms of what's considered an appropriate park to service a development. It does when it does go up to a higher order parks. However, in the instance of this, it would be considered a local recreation park. Under the planning scheme policy, there's an indicative sizing which indicates half a hectare to a hectare is appropriate. In this instance, you can see that it's just slightly over a hectare to service the site. In addition to the council's planning scheme requirements, so planning scheme policy 1, there's also the walkable neighbourhoods requirements, so that's in terms of proximity to open space. The detention and drainage basins themselves can be designed to provide some passive open space, not so much functional park space, but it does have those opportunities as well.
So is it possible to have, for example, a dog park on the basins, or not really? So or are they totally informal uses?
Wouldn't be able to respond to that at this time in terms of the designs. The sizings of those would be based on what's the anticipated ability as effectively an infrastructure lot. However, if there is those opportunities, we can explore those through the subsequent operational works permit applications.
Thank you.
Councillor Chalk, did you have something further questions?
I'll speak to the motion when I'm ready, if everyone's exhausted their questions.
Please.
Rightio. No, look, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I am supportive of this motion, and then this development. I think the block size and the location is a good design, and the upgrades to Hoyer Road that this triggers will be a good thing for that location. The signalling of that corner will probably be a controversial, considering it's the first time in Burna and probably in the west of the region that we've got a chance of having traffic lights. But I would probably also need to consider the safety of children, because there's a park on the corner of Springley Park that's extremely well used, a high school up the road, so safe transfer of those children across that road, which at the moment is quite dangerous. So a better safety outcome in that regard would be welcome, I believe, and also the intersection. I navigate that daily, and at times it can be quite challenging with school buses and the main road. So hopefully it leads to a safer environment on that corner, and we might just have to accept the fact that it's time for lights in Burna. I'm sure I'll get a few phone calls, but overall I'm supportive of this development, and I thank the developer for the block size that's more appropriate for the township of Burna, and it'll attract, I think, a good suburb in addition to Burna. So thank you.
Thank you, councillor. On that basis, I'll put the motion to the floor. Those in favour? Carried unanimously. It's been given the green light, councillor Chalk. With that, that concludes the proceedings for the day. So I will now would like to thank everyone for their contribution today and draw the meeting to the close at 11:20 a.m. Thank you very much.